Hello. In the previous homework, I believe we didn't talk about these exercises, direct questions and indirect questions, and making questions from, let's say, the subject and the the object. What's the difference? Let's go back to the student book now. Um, so let's talk about them. Indirect questions. This here, in this column, these questions are direct questions, whereas these are indirect. An example is, where is High Street? What does this mean? Where did Samir go? So these are direct questions. The way we make them indirect is that we don't really ask about them directly. We ask the person if he knows, if he can tell us, if he is able to. We call them indirect questions. Example: could you tell me where High Street is? You can see there is a slight difference between the direct question, is High Street, and the indirect question, High Street is. So there is a placement between the verb and the subject here. Another example is, can you tell me what time, oh, I'm sorry, what this means? Can you tell me what this means? Here we have, what does this mean? So again, we have the S here, means, instead of being before the subject and becoming does here. You can see it. So our placement here between the S and does, the helping verb, or the auxiliary, whatever we want to call it. The third example here, where did Samir go? Look, it changed. Do you know where Samir went? Instead of saying did, then go, we changed it. We changed the verb here, which was after the subject Samir, into the past. So we have here a question form, verb subject, question form, is High Street, does this mean, did Samir go? And here we have the affirmative form, which is let's say the sentence form of the the sentence form of this part of the question. Moving on, let's continue. We have subject questions and object questions. When you want to ask about a subject here, you want to ask about the subject, we form the question without auxiliary. Example: we have the verb and who, which, I'm sorry, without the auxiliary verb. We have a WH question, or the question word, like who, which, and what, plus the verb in the affirmative form. It's not in the question form, affirmative form, in the sentence form. Who saw the accident? What happened outside? You see, we don't have is before, so, or did, or because we are asking about the subject. The subject should not be in the question. It should be the answer. You see, if you said Tom alone, it's okay. Who saw the accident? Tom. Or you can give me a full answer. Tom saw the accident. But you can never say saw the accident alone. No, you should say Tom, because we're asking about Tom. This is something complementary. It's not really that important. What happened outside? An accident. An accident happened. We are asking about the subject here. So Tom saw the accident, and the accident happened. They did the verbs, they did the actions here. They are the doer, they are the agents, or the subject here. However, object questions, if we use them with who, which, and what, the verb in the question form. Example: who did you see at the restaurant? So the verb here, which is see, is preceded by did, or here are. We use an auxiliary here. We form the question with auxiliary verbs, helping verbs, verbs that change a little bit, verbs sometimes that carry the time, there's some that change a little bit of how the main verb, which is see here or eating here, how they function. We are asking about the object here, of course. It's not the subject here, not the doer of the verb, but what affected the verb. So what did you see? We call it the predicate or the object. What did you see at the restaurant? So I saw Tom and Joe. You can just say Tom and Joe. What are you eating? Chinese food. I'm eating Chinese food. So from the formation of the question itself, you can tell if he's asking about the subject or the object. If the question is asking about the subject, you can see there is no modal verbs. There is no auxiliaries. There is no helping verbs. If the question is asking about the object, you can find the auxiliary verb. We talked about these, when to use who and which and what. Who is mainly for people, subject or object, which is for people and or things. If you have a limited choice, if you've given a choice, like 3 things, which of these sweaters do you like the best? What is for things unlimited choice, like what color do you like? I like blue or black or white. But if you have 3 colors here, 3 only, so you say which color do you like? So you choose one of the 3. Okay, let's move on. Here the book wants to give us a hint, or let's say an introduction to the notion of having 2 objects. Some verbs like give, offer, send, show, buy, and more have more than, sometimes carry more than one object in the sentence. This is an example here. Adam sent an email. Sent Ian an email. So Ian here is an object. He received the email, and also the email was sent. So we have direct and indirect objects. Mainly, the book says here, as you can see, mainly the indirect object is usually a person. The direct one is usually also a thing. So here we actually kind of need to see the verb itself to know logically which is the direct and indirect object. So here, sent. What did he send, Adam? He sent an email. Of course, he sent it to Ian, but the thing that he sent is an email. So we say this is the direct object. Mark bought his son a watch. So of course he bought it to his son, but he didn't buy his son. He bought a watch. So this is the direct object, and this is the indirect. So it's not about the place of the words. You can't say the second object is the direct object. No, you can change them as the book mentions here. So also, you know, if you want to ask about a question here regarding a direct object and indirect object, mostly when asking about the indirect object, we must put to or for at the end of the question. Who did Adam send an email to? He sent it to Ian. Yeah. What did Mark buy? Who did Mark buy a watch for? He bought it for his son. You can see Ian and his son are indirect objects. But if you want to ask about the direct object here, like the email, what did Adam send Ian, or what did Mark buy for his son? So you can see the direct and indirect object. The book mentions it like as information, as an introduction to this grammar rule, but it's not really the focus of this lesson. Indirect questions, we talked about them. You use phrases like can, could, or could you tell me, do you know, I'd like to know. So it's not really directly asking, it's kind of polite. You can see it's being polite, being more official in a sense. In indirect questions, the verb in the affirmative form, as we can see, you change it from a question form to affirmative sentence form. Where is the post office? This is the direct question. Change it, we need to replace this into after the subject here. Do you know where the post office is? So we don't say is the post office, we say the post office is. Make it indirect. In the practice section of the book, we have these two, we have A and B, I believe. Here we want to write questions for the answers given, the words in bold, etc. So the words in bold, we need to know if they are a subject or an object. Here, I bought a skirt and a pair of shoes when I went shopping. So we need to know, is this a subject or an object? Two ways. You look at the verb, bought. If the bold words are the ones who did the verb, then you say these are the subject. But now, no. Buying happened to the shoes and this skirt and pair of shoes. So also you can look at the formation of the sentence itself. So in English we say subject, verb, object, subject, verb, and then we have the object. So this is the object here. So we understood this. This is an object. In object questions, we ask and add auxiliaries. Auxiliaries like did, are, helping verbs mainly. So what we want to ask is about what did you buy when you went shopping, or what did you buy? What did you buy? Why did we add did? Because the verb here in the past, so we place do because it's an action verb. We add verb do, but instead of saying do or does, or doing even, we place it, we change it into the past here. Salma is going to school with Maria, number 2. Salma, subject, clearly before the verb, is going to school with Maria. We're going to ask about Salma. So we want to ask about a person here, so we use who. If we have limited people or limited selection or a list of people that we want to talk about, we say which, but we know that Salma only is given, so we say who. Who is going to school with Maria? It's the same thing. We don't really change the question here. So yeah, it's an affirmative verb. So affirmative sentence form. I caught 5 fish. So we don't say who. So don't say what. Here we are talking about a number. So how many? How many fish did you catch? You didn't say how many fishes, because it's fish. Even if it is 5 fish, you can see here. It's an uncountable noun, so yeah. I usually go to Cornwall during the summer. Go to Cornwall. So we can see that from the capital C here, it's a place, it's a name of a place. So we want to ask about a place. Do we say how many, who, what, or we can actually say where. Where do you usually go during the summer? We added do because we are asking about a object here. We didn't ask about the subject, so we added do, or even are or am or is, or any verb, any auxiliary verb that fits the question. Tom goes jogging in the morning. We're going to ask about a time here. When does Tom go jogging? Again, we added does because it is, let's say, in the object and not about the subject of the sentence. They like the blue car. what car did they like, or what car does they like, or do they, I'm sorry, like, is kind of acceptable, but let's make it into a list here. We want to ask about mm, which car. So you say, which car do they like? Question B. Rewrite the sentences with the new beginning using indirect questions. So it's quite easy here. Um, Instead of giving a direct question, you make it into indirect question. So question number 1, how many eggs do we need for the cake? So you start your question with, do you know, can you tell me, do you remember, whichever one you like. But here we start with, do you know how many eggs? So we need to change this into from a question to a sentence. So, do you know how many eggs we need for the cake? Instead of saying, do we need for the cake, we either change the place of the auxiliary, but here it is an added one. It's not a main verb, so we just delete it because we have the main verb here. How much did that jacket cost? Can you tell me how much that jacket cost? So we deleted the added helping verb we used. Number 3, you can see that there is there is one verb. It is a helping verb. It is verb to be, is. But here it's the only one, so it is a main verb. We don't delete it because we need a verb in any structure of, let's say, English sentences or questions. So instead of saying delete, so delete this and say, do you know the bus stop? No. Do you know where, or do you know where the bus stop and stop? No. Do you know where the bus stop is? So we change the place of is. Why is Sally crying? So the same thing. Can you tell me why? And is becomes at the end. So can you tell me why, skip is, Sally is crying? So can you tell me why Sally is crying? So here after Sally, after the subject. When is Kareem's graduation? Do you remember when Kareem's graduation is? And so on and so forth. I believe that in the homework I gave you before, there was on page 6, I believe, exercise D and E for pages 8 and 9. You have to do this if you didn't do it, and please try it again if you didn't really understand the grammar rule. That's all for now. Hopefully this helps you with understanding this lesson. See you.